Hold that thought, everybody. I'm David Cruz. Further discussion on the future of public broadcasting in New Jersey and what could the election of two socialist Democrats to the city council in Jersey City mean, if anything? Let's take the first part of that and welcome in the chairman of the State Senate Legislative Oversight Committee, Andrew Zwicker. Senator, good to see you. Welcome.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me on.
Did I get that right? It's Senate Oversight Committee?
Correct. Yep. And I
Yeah.
am fortunate enough to be the chair.
Yeah. So that was the committee that a few weeks ago held a hearing on the future of public broadcasting in New Jersey. So what did you hear and what stuck with you?
Well, a couple of things. So let's just step back for a second. But public broadcasting is under enormous economic pressure in the state and throughout the country. It comes from both federal pressure and cuts at the federal level. But honestly, there were cuts at the state level too that have put us in a situation now where if we don't take action, then New Jersey could lose its public broadcasting station. And that uniformly from everybody we heard is unacceptable. And so we wanted to not just wasn't just about the value of public education, but what are the steps moving forward? Because Republicans, Democrats alike, advocates all say that we have got to take action.
And we're here because NJPBS is ending its, I guess it was a 15-year contract with the state to operate the public broadcasting system, which I guess is sort of mandated by statute that the state provide. And so now the state needs to pick a new operator by July 1.
It's not a lot of time, right? And this goes back to when former Governor Chris Christie decided that the state should no longer be operating on its own public broadcasting. So, right. So we moved to a public-private partnership. And what's happening now is the private part, WNET, has decided this is not worth their economic value. So it's beholden now on the state to figure out who the next private, it's a nonprofit that we need to figure out, will take over managing all of the unique content, but not just the existing content. We will then charge that entity with looking forward for, what is the future of public broadcasting in this media environment.
I listened to the hearing. A lot of recommendations on what to program, from high school sports to Senate budget hearings, but not much from the panelists who were invited guests to speak. Not much from them in terms of how we're going to pay for this, right?
Yeah, and look, I should give an enormous shout out to my colleague in the Senate, John Berticelli.
Yeah.
He and I have been the ones, and he really started this and making sure that we focused on it. He and I, that's going to be on us and our legislative colleagues to figure out a source of funding and a stable source of funding. We are, as the incoming Governor-elect Sherrill administration comes in, we've got a lot of economic challenges. Senator Berticelli and I look at public broadcasting as part of New Jersey's infrastructure, as important to ensure that it's adequately funded as our roads and bridges. So we've just started that conversation among ourselves with our colleagues. We have, as you said, till June 30th, the end of our next budget cycle, to work in collaboration with the incoming administration and figure that out. It's not a lot of money. It's in the neighborhood of, let's say, 15, maybe $20 million. So we'll figure that out while we figure out the governance structure.
I'm sure you remember when the changeover occurred from NJN to what was NJTV then. It all just came down to these votes in the Senate, and then down to, I think, one vote in the Senate. And then the next day, after July 1st, they had to start a whole new network. And while they were lucky to have the infrastructure of PBS, it was a really short runway to get things going. And they were so desperate that they hired me at that time. So, but it took a while to get that thing going. And if it doesn't happen sooner, we're going to face that again. Yeah, the other thing about this, I'm sure you remember when the changeover occurred from NJN to what was NJTV then. It all just came down to these votes in the Senate, and then down to I think one vote in the Senate, and then the next day, on after uh, July 1st, they had to start a whole new network. And while they were lucky to have the infrastructure of PBS, it was a really short runway to get things going. And they were so desperate that they hired me at that time. So, but it took a while to get that thing going. And if it doesn't happen sooner, we're going to face that again.
We're not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
So the reason why we did the Senate Oversight Committee hearing now was to get everyone together. Meetings have already started with some of the folks that came to testify and others who are real experts on this. Meanwhile, Governor Murphy has put forth a quick request for a contract for a consultant to advise him and his administration as well. Everyone understands that waiting till June 30th would just lead to an enormous amount of chaos. So we've got, a little more than 6 months. We're working on it now, and I am optimistic that we'll have this done way ahead of time so that the transition will be smooth and orderly.
And so now, what happens is that the administration, whether this one or the next one, puts out an RFP, a request for proposal, or at least that's how it happened last time. Um, who, a, who's going to do it? Is it going to be a Murphy administration RFP or a Sherrill administration RFP? And what do you think should be in that RFP?
Well, it'll be a Sherrill administration RFP, and we've already started conversation. I mean, they're going in the middle, right in the middle of their transition teams,
Yeah.
but we have talked to some of the people closest to Governor-elect Sherrill about this, so they're aware and intend to be a part of the whole conversation. I think, an RFP has to look at what the media landscape is right now, online media. You heard from Senator Bertuccelli, there's a lot of desire given, quite frankly, and you know this as well as anyone, the shrinking of the New Jersey media and press corps
Yeah.
overall, that there should be a even bigger focus on what happens under the Gold Dome. And couldn't agree with that more. I would love to see more cameras in our committee hearings, love to see more cameras in our voting sessions, because we need to be open and transparent about what's going on. And, a public broadcasting system is a perfect platform for that. While we cover New Jersey issues, whether it's high school sports or arts or entertainment. So the RFP has got to acknowledge that we are in a completely different media landscape and set forth that whatever this entity may look like, that it's ready for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean that's an important thing because the vicissitudes of state budgets make it unrealistic to expect uh, prolonged support from the state government. And there's a whole other question of how an operator is going to be able to, not monetize because it's a nonprofit, but to be able to fund some more of their production costs because the state's probably not going to have an infinite amount of years to be funding public television, at least if history is any indicator.
Yeah, and to be clear, the proposals will not be that the state funds 100% of the operating costs. This will, as it always is, and we all know the many times we watch public broadcasting and there's been a break while people say, hey, we couldn't do this without your
Yeah.
support. That will be a part of the business model. But yeah, we're going to have to figure out where do we get the state piece of this, how much of that, what percentage of this will be, how long that will go. You're raising all of the questions that we need to figure out in the
Yeah.
short window that we have.
You have thoughts, feelings on what you'd like to see? I mean, you mentioned committee meeting hearings, a kind of a C-SPAN approach.
if it's up to me, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of people in this, we will continue to be a PBS station and provide the programming, the very unique programming that the public broadcasting nationally provides. Uh, and we all grew up with Mr. Rogers. We all grew up with Sesame Street and the various
By the
educational
way, Senator, you did a pretty good, Mr. Rogers. I'm going to show some of that while we continue to talk, but go on.
I will tell you that I got the red cardigan. I studied the shoe toss that Fred
Nice.
Rogers,
Yeah.
but that video that you'll show was inspired by Mr. Rogers himself testifying in front of the United States Congress in the early 70s about ensuring federal funding for public broadcasting. And I felt like I had to play off of that for what we have in front of us. So thank you.
You did
Right.
a nice job.
But I think the answer is that we want to include the national programs, unique programming that PBS offers,
Yeah.
and add to that, whether that is in Trenton, high school sports, local arts and entertainment, all the wonderful things and all the wonderful programming, North, Central, South Shore, parts of New Jersey that are unique to us. And so that to me is how not just you fill 24 hours, but I think that's a complete public broadcasting
Yeah.
system.
I'm fascinated by the number of Jersey organizations slash institutions who a testify that you're hearing, but are right now negotiating like it's the winter baseball meetings about how they can get in on this. It certainly suggests anyway that there's a lot of content to be gleaned from all of them. The question is who decides how to run it and how they want to run it. That's always the challenge.
Right, of course. And look, we've got universities which have really amazing production facilities and are training that next generation of students. They need to be a part of this. We have privately owned small facilities. I want them to be a part of this. I'd like this to get down from the state level to the hyper local, down
Yeah.
to a town, because as we all grew up this, whether it was programming on AM radio, late night television, people are watching and are interested in what's going on in their local town or in their state.
No doubt about it. I've run out of time, but I have to uh, get a couple of questions in here. One, because I'm going to have a couple of social democrats in the second half of the show today. It brings to mind ranked choice voting, which is a big part of the local agenda of social democrats. You put up a bill again to do just that, yes, statewide?
So I've had bills to do ranked choice voting since 2018 or 2019, because the moment I learned about ranked choice voting, and this is not a Democrat or a Democratic Socialist or anything. This
Yeah.
nor Republican, quite frankly. We see states around the country, Democratic states, Republican states, that have embraced ranked choice voting. And it's just simply the idea, and we don't have to go into the details right now,
Yeah.
of the fact that more people get to have their voice heard because you can vote for your favorite candidate, but you can rank the rest of them. And so it increases voter engagement, and it also decreases a lot of the partisan negativity that we're seeing. I think it's a win all around, whether that's statewide or I have another bill that is more of a permissive bill for local elections, where if a town wants to do it, they pass an ordinance, and then my legislation will enable the rest of it to happen under our laws for voting. We see it in New York where it's highly successful. We saw it in Alaska. We see it in other states. I think it's something good for New Jersey. There's a lot of misconceptions about it. And so, I and a lot of other folks are spending time just educating people on the benefits of ranked choice voting.
Are you going to run for Congress? Give me a headline to go with here.
I have been talking to my family, my friends, to members of Congress, both past and present, about the positives and negatives. And I am still weighing, where can I get the most done? There are, as they say, show horses and workhorses, and
Yeah.
I tend to be a workhorse. And so I want to do do the job that I've been elected to do, which is try to make people's lives better. There's different challenges both in Trenton and in DC, and I'm still weighing the pluses and the minuses.
All right. Senator Andrew Zwicker, always good to talk to you, man. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Elections have consequences. In Jersey City, that means a new mayor and an almost entirely new city council, which includes two socialist Democrats. Joel Brooks represents the West Side, and Jake Efros, who represents the Heights. Gents, welcome to you both. I called you socialist Democrats. I hear a lot of people, I think including yourselves, use the term social democrats. Is this semantics, or is there a point?
Yeah, we we are both members of Democratic Socialists of America, DSA,
Yep.
and we both consider ourselves democratic socialists. And this means that kind of from the bottom up, we're putting working class people in power in places where traditionally, corporate elites are calling the shots, their preferred politicians are calling the shots. But this means we're building power from the grassroots on up.
Which is a philosophy, I guess, right? As opposed to a system, an economic system, Joel, right? Which is what socialism is. I'm just trying to separate the semantics from what we're talking about, because we're going to talk a lot about potholes. So I
Sure.
want people to understand where you are coming from.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, when you kind of introduce us as socialist Democrats, we are both registered Democrats. I will echo what Mayor Zoran Mamdani said, that, we're registered Democrats, so we can participate in the primaries in New Jersey. And, being a Democrat is something that I'll speak for myself. I don't think about it every day. It's my party affiliation. I go and vote in that party primary. But as a Democratic Socialist, that is the DSA is our political home. It's where we strategize about organizing and, how to win real material gains for working class people, like Jake said.
I'm just thinking, I mentioned this to somebody the other day. Um, uh, this is Jersey City, where Frank Hague is a legendary political figure, and he actually organized the group to drive socialists out of the city and literally into the Hudson River, and how he would be rolling over in his grave at the very idea of that mention. But in a lot of ways, he was kind of a social democrat too, except for the corruption part. But so, just so as we can go forward, you acknowledge the need for elections and democratic institutions, et cetera.
100%.
Yeah.
And on the note of the social democracy and democratic socialism, that difference in language, that's up to debate, and I think people would have different ideas on it. The way I see it is that, the difference in, is capitalism itself a system that is, primarily centered around generating profit? Is that a system that we want to keep as the overarching guiding force for our society and economy? And social democrats say yes, but we should tweak as much as possible within that. And for myself, as a democratic socialist, I think we can do better, and our system should be generated, or should be designed to generate equality for all people, and to have everyone's basic needs met before we think about generating profit.
All right. As I said before, a pothole is a pothole. That's the bottom line. So let's talk about those things and how a social democrat's approach might be different. What are the issues that are driving voters? I know you're going to say affordability, because that's what everybody's been saying, but that's what the truth is. But if we can put that aside, I mean, I don't know how you can do that, but in addition to affordability, what have voters been telling you are the needs in your wards? And you're in two different wards, we should say, in two different parts of the city.
I mean, yeah, affordability was the number one concern. But in terms of the West Side, what I heard renters and homeowners say that, our costs are going up and we're not seeing an according increase in services or quality in services from the city. And so, you talk about potholes, and there's a lot of, nearly undrivable streets in Jersey City. There's a real need for increased street safety, pedestrians, cyclists, drivers, transit riders, and, increased tree canopy. As development comes into West Side, we have a lot of infill development with, people need zoning variances, and then they're getting tax breaks, not building union, no affordable units. And I think that kind of all went into a pot of dissatisfaction. And this was a change election. And I think people all over the city, but the West Side as well, voted for change.
Yeah, gentrification, a big issue on the West Side too. The Heights, you've probably seen it accelerate really quickly, Jake, again, beyond the overarching point of affordability.
Obviously, costs are exploding in all of Ward D, which is the Heights, the Slopes, and a small part of downtown that's also represented by D. But in addition to those, it's similar quality of life concerns. Why are we paying so much money to live here when we only see our roads paved in an election year? When we don't see the garbage get picked up in a way that makes our streets cleaner, but actually in a way that often leaves trash riddled all throughout the sidewalks and streets anyway. Why aren't we seeing green space expanded, or a tree canopy that can keep seniors and young kids safe from like the 100-degree summers that we have now? So those are a lot of the basic quality of life concerns that people have, and it's a matter of we deserve more.
Yeah,
Ordinary working families deserve more, especially for all that we pay to live here. So let's win it.
I've lived here all my life, and I've never seen an election quite like this one, where the something in the air suggests that this really is a change election beyond the changing of mayors. I mean, this all kind of is an extension of the revolution started when the line started crumbling, no?
Yeah, definitely. There's been so much activism from, whether you're a democratic socialist or a progressive. There's been so much activism from ordinary people who are so tired of really corrupt machine politics done, if not the exact same way, then in a similar way to how Frank Hague was running things in the last century. And from getting rid of the county line, the ballot line, to making sure independents can actually win seats in, state office and local office. Like, there's just been a real outpouring of activism, both around elections like ours, but also around other kinds of social movements, making sure that we are standing up against ICE raids that are targeting our neighbors throughout the Heights, throughout Ward B2, throughout Jersey City, protesting the federal government and the right-wing attacks we see from the federal government. So there's been a ton of activism in a lot of different places throughout politics, both electoral and beyond.
Yeah, Joe, what do you think about the dynamic of this city council? It's like, I guess, is it 6 new city council members, something like that, and a lot of new faces? I mean, I remember interviewing you, Joel. I don't know if you remember 4 years ago when you ran on the West Side. It's a whole different ball game now on the city council, isn't it?
It is. I think we have 2 incumbents that won re-election, Denise in Ward A and Frank in Ward F. So, I mean, Rolando is coming back.
Coming back, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so he's cumulatively has maybe the most seniority.
Well, let me tell you, that's the argument he's going to make when he tells you that he wants to be council president. I just throwing that
No
out
comment
there.
on that one. No comment on that one. Yeah, let's.
Because let me tell you, that's usually where the fights begin. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
No.
ahead.
Yes. Yeah. No fights yet there. No
No, no,
fights
no.
yet.
Well, you haven't taken office.
We're all doing our Christmas shopping and
And that was a
wrap.
great, I mean, it was a pretty diverse stage on election night. But it's going to be an interesting dynamic. I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, I mean, it is going to be an interesting dynamic. You have, with Manta, the first Indian American on the Jersey City Council. So you have some really exciting demographic diversity on the council. I know Danny outgoing as a representative of the Latino community. I'm also Latino. I was born in Honduras. So yeah, it's an exciting council, demographically, also our backgrounds and how we approach politics. Jake and I both come out of the labor movement. And so, that we're going to prioritize, we're going to still be knocking on doors in our wards. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not January 2nd, but, we're going to stay out there in the streets. And, there's some other organizers on the council too. So it'll be exciting to work together.
What about that dynamic, Jake?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I feel optimistic about what we can get done. And I think the way that we'll approach politics is not a behind closed doors way of approaching politics. I'm really excited to work together with the incoming mayor and the rest of the incoming council on everything, that aligns with our shared values. And when there are things where we have disagreement and we have debate, I think it's really important to have that be transparent and like at the level of politics and not like interpersonal. To have it be really clear to the community, to have the community trusted, and what are the stakes of this debate, what are the terms of this disagreement, and really be representatives and organizers and bring more and more people, so it's not just 9 of us trying to decide behind the chambers of city council, but really have it be a collective process that our whole city is involved in.
All right, Jake Efros, Joel Brooks. Good to see you. Congratulations. And I'll see you out there, guys.
Thanks so much,
David.
That's Hold That Thought
Take
for
care.
this week. Thanks also to Andrew Zwicker for joining us. We welcome your comments on the show. Comment below or in the chat. We'll engage on some of the more interesting ones and maybe have you on the show as well. Meanwhile, thank you for liking and subscribing, which I know you're doing right now. I'm David Cruz. Thanks for streaming. We'll see you next week.